are the solutions. We are the cause, we are the effect. We are the light, we are the darkness. We are male, we are female. Yes, we are the solutions. Welcome to Solutions Radio, a place of revealing and healing, a place of reflection and connection, revolution and evolution, not against anything or anyone, but specifically for the building of love and solidarity among people of African descent in America. Solutions Radio, recording live here at blogtalkradio.com/Solutions Radio.
Yes, and good evening, everyone. So glad you could make it here for our show. We have a special show. Actually, all the shows are special, but we have a very interesting guest this evening. His name is Baba Femi, and he is a priest of Ifa. And he actually has a very diverse and interesting background. He was actually a pro international ball player, basketball. He is local to the Houston area, and the reason that we have him here this evening is because he has a wonderful book that's entitled Who is Sambo? And the premise is basically about dealing with the post-traumatic slave syndrome that we all deal with here in the United States. But before we introduce our guest, I would like to very much thank our sponsors. And the sponsor is SovereignMindRadio.com, Open Mind Store Info, and TamsHealthyKitchen.com. And we thank you so much for joining us here, and my co-host, Curtis. Curtis, are you there? Want to say hello?
Yes, I'm here, my love. Peace and blessings, everyone.
Yes. And it looks like we do have our guest on the line. And without further ado, I would just love to allow Baba Femi to come on the line and just share exactly a little bit about his background, and then we can get right into the show. Baba Femi?
Good evening.
Yeah,
Peace, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing this evening?
Doing well. Doing well.
Wonderful.
Really well.
Wonderful. Good to be here. You want me to tell a little bit about myself, or?
Yes, please. Give us a bit about. You have a very interesting background there, and let us know how you came to do what you're doing now, and how the book came about, and so on and so forth.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I'm a 51-year-old father of 4 boys. And born and raised right here in Houston, Texas. And I guess my journey started out like anybody else's, for the most part. I grew up in the inner city. I do remember most of what occurred in the 60s. My eldest brother was part of People's Party right here in Houston, was an affiliate of the Black Panthers. He's now a professor at the Maryland Institute of Arts. So I guess I got some background in the 60s. I remember the day Dr. King got shot, and we didn't have to go to school the next day because all these brothers were dressed up in black, and that kind of always intrigued me up until I got to college. I kind of wanted to expand that studies. My eldest brother, again, he gave me the autobiography of Malcolm X when I graduated high school. Everybody else was giving me all these gifts and stuff. He came with this book. And, of course, I was from a Christian background, and that became a very interesting contrast between the two. And, after some years, in the early 90s, I was a Sunday school teacher. And I also remember being part of the grassroots community. And, again, the contrast of Afrocentric ideas, conscious ideas with the brothers and sisters, questioned my church background, and I just became a student of African history, I guess you would say that. And after a while, as I moved up, under the teachings of some of the ministers of Dr. Joseph Ben Yakanan, the priest of Amun-Ra, I did a lot of studying with that, and I remember talking with one of the ministers and asking him what more is it to it, because, you know, I walk out of here on Sundays with all this information, all this knowledge from 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago, and, you know, what we did as a people. And, you know, come Monday morning, you know, I still had to go punch the clock. And, you know, so what do you really do with it? And I remember him saying that to it, if you really want to expand, you know, one of the things you could do is you have to backdoor Egypt. And I said, what do you mean backdoor Egypt? And he said you have to get off into the indigenous systems where there's practicality. And I said, so you're talking a whole different system. And he said a lot of the information of Kemet is lost. And to be in the soil, to be in that Nile Valley region with the Nubian people, takes some time to get a lot of the things that we're looking for. So the academic we had, but the practicality that we didn't. And so I began to understand some of the indigenous systems, and I was initiated as a priest of Ifa in 2004 in Ondo State, Akure, in a city that's in Ondo State, southwest Nigeria. But anyway, as still having that blood, that energy of African history and childhood 60s, one of the things that always stood out, that those atrocities that occurred during slavery was always fascinating to me, the conditioning of a people and how much we put so much stock into, i.e. Western culture. I mean, though we still had a flavor for Africa, we were clearly the condition of Western culture. And there's one particular time in the fall, a few years ago, I was helping a friend open up a clothing store, and he had hired some of the local celebrities. And these local celebrities were a prosperity preaching minister, a couple of rap stars, a businesswoman of the year, a brother that was very deep into corporate America, this egocentric basketball player, and this very conscious person, myself, were all in this room together. And one thing I noticed outside of myself was that these people didn't really get along with each other, and that there was a very, very cool atmosphere of attitude and behavior. Mm-hmm. And some of the comments were made toward the others. You know, it was just amazing. Here were these people very influential in the community, but that was this thing about, you know, this self-hatred. And even though that may be a strong term, you know, it's, for lack of a better term, you know, it's one of the things that we say as opposed to. And as I thought about it, even after the event, you know, it was interesting because what came to me, and like an epiphany, a vision that I have experienced that before, I began to write about it. And my book was called A Journey of Lessons. And as I wrote the chapters, the 6 chapters, I wrote the book in 9 days, about 375 pages. I just went into a flow. And by the time I came out of it, I had these 6 chapters. And this whole area of information that I had gathered that I tied into a story, a fictional story, about these 7 African Americans who were transformed from 1999 back to 1831, and how they had to live on a slave plantation that was very functional. They got to witness up front some of the atrocities and the genesis of the self-hate that incurred to us or on us, and the attitudes that we still deal with today. And so there they were, you know, on this plantation, having to come together to find a way back home or remain on the plantation forever. And I thought it was a very clever way for us to look at a mirror at ourselves and how we treat each other. So hopefully that gives some of the people a little insight to my background and the reason of the coming of the story. The book was originally titled Journey of Lessons, but as I was doing some further research, I ran across the concept of Sambo from the Harry Beecher Stowe novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin. And Sambo carries on a many meaning, but this particular brother that was in the story was a henchman, and he worked for Simon Legree. This was a black man that worked for one of the largest antebellum slave plantations the Deep South, Louisiana, in this story written in 1850. He hated all black people, and most of the black people hated him, of course. And as it goes, Simon Legree brought in Uncle Tom to run his plantation. He brought in Uncle Tom from Kentucky. Well, Sambo didn't like this. And, of course, that's the age-old strategy. They still do it in corporate America. Bring somebody in and you train them for your job. And that's pretty much the way it was. Well, Sambo didn't like Tom. So anyway, Simon knew this, so he created the animosity between them. And, of course, that ensured the security of his plantation being run because these two brothers would fight for their position. But nonetheless, a female slave ran away. Simon, the owner, ordered Uncle Tom to whip this slave. He wouldn't. The slave saw the inner strength and courage of Tom not to do this as he stood up for his people. Well, that angered Simon, so he ordered Sambo to whip Tom. Well, Sambo delighted in that, and he did. He whipped Tom to the point of death. But as Tom was dying, his spirit transitioning, it touched Sambo to the point that he cried for Tom to come back. But it was too late. Tom had already died. And oftentimes it's too late sometimes for us to reach back or get the understanding of the things that we do as a people. You know, tough lessons that are learned. And even more so, Uncle Tom is not really an Uncle Tom. I also heard this on the Tom Joyner show one morning, a little-known black history fact, that Uncle Tom was actually a very strong brother in his beliefs and took up for his people very well. But, of course, when you allow other folks to tell your story or give you the concept, you know, we often be misled. And that's why I got the title, the first, I changed the title from A Journey of Lessons to Who is Sambo, as in today's modern-day Sambo. You know, is it the drug dealer? You know, is it the rap star? You know, is it the egocentric basketball player who won't give back to the community, the one that dates white women and, you know, got all the babies from the sister? Is it the prosperity preaching minister that's saying you can have what I have if you believe like me, and we can all be rich in a quote-unquote capitalistic society that's based upon haves and have-nots, and the sister that set a standard too high for brothers, the brother that set a standard too high for his community where he's left it, or is it the conscious brother that just alienated himself altogether and said, I'm not going to deal with these Sambos at all? So as their attitudes and behaviors toward each other, when they hit the plantation that day, you know, of course, they're in disarray, they're in arguments, they can't get it together. But they quickly realize that if they don't come together, then they're gonna be killed. They're gonna become permanent residents of this particular plantation, and that's what the story talks about.
Very, very interesting. That's very, very delightful. And so, how can one get this book? Who is Sambo?
Okay, you can order from my webpage, which is at Baba Femi. That's OBAFEMI.org. Of course, the regular Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, all carry the book. And you can go through the printer, which is Rose Dog, ROSEDOG, Rose Dog Books. They have it as well. I also did a 10-minute short film that was featured at the Christian Film Festival out in Atlanta, Georgia, in this past October, and I was the only film out of 46 that was able to show. I was the only one to be able to show my film twice and talk about it. Everybody else had kind of made more of a Christian theme, but the brother that organized the film festival actually solicited me at a book signing that I was doing out in Atlanta, and he just told me he thought I had a very good concept with the whole concept of the minister and this aspect of it, which I highlighted a part of the book to read for you all. This particular passage is from chapter 6, and it's called End of the Beginning. And this is where there's a plantation elder named Mama Ressi. And Mama Ressi has understood who these people are that have transformed from 1999 to 1831. You know, these cats are on the plantation talking about, they can't talk about the Lakers. You know, they can't talk about, they talking about this is something like the X-Files and other slaves. They don't know what this is. So they've been there for a few days, and they've basically found a way home. But all of them got to come together. And what has happened since they've been on the plantation, they have their respective positions already there established. And some of them are house Negroes and some of them are field Negroes. And the problem is, now these are brothers and sisters from 1999 that are already saying, well, you a house Negro and I'm a field Negro, so I don't know if I got to stay here, life is cool for me, And so now they found a way back home, and the Afrocentric brother, his name is John Washington, and he goes by the name of Rossity. And him and Mama Ressie, who they've become very close. She's a plantation elder. She's actually the matriarch of the plantation. And they're having this conversation. And this is late at night. So, and I wrote the book. One of the major publishers turned me down because they wanted me to change the dialect. And I didn't want to do it. So this is why I had to end up self-publishing. So I'm going to read this passage in the slave narrative. So there's going to be some broken up English. So everybody can kind of get the feel of it. And this is the conversation between Ressie and John. Ressie and I stood standing as our friends headed in for what possibly may be our last night. John, asked Ressie. Yes, ma'am, I answered. She sat back down and said, I knows how you got here, and I knows you have to make all this come to pass. I even knows how you're supposed to go on home. But tell me something, baby. Where's all y'all come from? This 1999 place. What's it like, John? I listened to Ressie ask questions that I really didn't know how to answer. She looked anxious to hear. I hesitated as she placed her hand over mine. Not this time, Ressie. Just listen. She said puzzled but anxious to hear, and I began shamefully. Years from now, the white folks up north and the white folks down south will have a big war about us being free. The North will win, and Africans will be let go. Some of us will go back to Africa. The rest will stay. Some will have been here too long and won't know nothing else. Those that stay will have nothing to start with, but they will leave the plantation anyhow. The rest of them will stay and take whatever master give them. Then for about 100 years, that's a long time from now, we'll go look like free people and live on our own plantations, but things will still be wrong. Till one day a strong African woman, just like you, Ressie, will say she don't want to ride in the back of the wagon no more, that she want to ride up front. That will start a big uprising that lasts for a while. They will call it the rights movement. The what? She asked. Never mind, Ressie. Just call it the time the ancestors heard our cry. These times we will fight hard so we can eat in all the big houses with them, drinks out the same well, even use the same outhouses. We will go wherever they go, eat whatever they eat, act like them, and talk like them too. Why would you fight hard to not be like yourself, John? Don't make sister be like the one that calls you a nigger, said Ressie. Well, Ressie, I said, white folks won't call us niggers no more, or beat us hardly anymore. They will does it another way, through some they call the system. What's a system, she asked. I tried to explain to the eager Ressie. It's like going into a master's house because he has said that's where you got to live. And all the rooms in the house got a different kind of battle that you got to fight. That's a system. That's when you got to beat the system, and then you can have the things that you work hard for, the same thing Master has. I was confused, John. Why were you going to the house in the first place? I thought you said that you had your own. Ressie asked again. I smiled at my wonderful aunt and continued. When we fought to get where Master was, some of us Africans forgot where we've come from. Now we stuck in Master's house and his system, but don't realize that we stuck in it. And some of the ones that stayed back is waiting on Master and some of us Africans to come back and get them. The rest ain't waiting. They's mad. So mad they killing each other. They figures we ain't coming to help them because they black. So they starts to hate themselves. Start doing things to look like Master. So maybe folks can look at them, treat them different. They understand they's a part of another system. It's so crazy that here all white folks have been put in the system too. Ressie remained curious. She then wanted to know about the rest of the game. Where's your friends at in 1999? I said, well, Rev is telling black folk they can have riches and all if they put their trust in God. Except he don't tell them that the way Master got it fixed, everybody can't be rich. And since most black folk is caught up in the system, they only see riches and power like Master. Ward is like a new kind of Caleb. He don't whip you, but he's still trained to do anything Master tells him. He don't trust no man, because most of them done been broken by the system. The rest is like Ward. Cat and Aaron, they sing, but only about black folks killing each other, taking off their clothes and having their way with each other. They call each other niggas and wenches in their songs. Ress's look revealed a sad face. What she was hearing from me was unbelievable. I continued on. Carrie works at one of the biggest plantations Master got. He runs and jumps for lots of money. More money than lots of white folks got. Sometimes folks like Carrie does good things, better than most. But Carrie don't know himself either. He makes lots of babies like he is a breeder. Except in 1999, there ain't no more breeding going on. Where are you at in all of this, John? Bessie asked, looking with the concern that I would not let her down. I answered, I was what you call conscious, Bessie. That means I knows what's going on most of the time. But I started off like Ward and Carrie. Listened to the songs Cat and Aaron sang. I even listened to Rev and knew women like Lizzie. I found out about myself and Master. I don't blame Master no more, not in 1999. See, I asked Master in the uprising for my rights. Then I asked him to let me read and write, then for a good job. Master gave it all to me. And when he didn't, I fought him for it, and I won. But you know, Ressie, God still didn't fully bless me. Ask me whose I am. Where did I come from? Why is I here? He said, I didn't make you, John. Just what are you anyhow? You sure ain't no man of mine. You just like the rest of them. Then I prayed and asked him for help to know my true self and have wisdom. He blessed me. So I went back to get the rest of the field hands. Except since I've been here these 7 days, I knows now what God also wants me to do. Ressie asked, what's that, baby? He wants me to get the house hands too, including Caleb. Ressie nodded her head as though she understood. I hadn't realized it, but I was crying. I never had to explain anything in this fashion. It all seemed so clear. I now knew why I had come back. It wasn't about saving or loving a few conscious and African-centered people, but the unconscious ones as well, the way I once was. I looked at Ressie. She smiled. Now that's some powerful story. I couldn't help but laugh a little, thinking back to my comment Sunday under the oak tree. I said, especially if the ancestors have anything to do with it. Tell me one more thing, baby, Ressie asked. If we done been asking God before 1831 up until 1999 to help us, then maybe we asking for the wrong kinds of help. Maybe God don't want to give us all the same things Master got. Maybe some of what Master got ain't that good in his eyes. You know, Ressie, I've read many a book that done taught me a lot and answered lots of questions. But what you said is the best I ever heard. Black folk done walked off the plantation, but some, they left their minds sitting in the quarters. Thank you.
Excellent.
That is.
Yeah,
I know that was kind of long, but that was one of the things that I was told as I was searching for a part to read a year ago when I was doing some of the signings. One of the ladies, one of the literary people that helped me, told me that kind of summed up what the book was kind of hitting on, for the people to go back and each one of them finding their own redemption as to who they are in 1999.
See, it seems like in this particular book, you have basically taken all the attitudes that permeate Black America, if you will, and brought them together all in one place, and taken them, those same minds who were once divisive, and somehow, some way, bringing them together. Now that's true. That's what I call holistic. Because you've taken all these minds who, on the surface, you could obviously see that there are differences there. Differences that, especially in personality, that you can see will keep them divided. One thinking they're better than the other. This one thinking that they're less than the other one. But somehow, some way, in the end, those minds found common ground, and they all came together. I truly commend you, brother. I truly commend you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, that's an excellent piece of work there. And now, Baba Femi, as a priest of Ifa, and a life coach and a spiritual counselor, what would you say we need to do? Where do we begin to actually, certainly we're so widespread we can't be all in one spot together. How would we begin to heal this and come together?
Well, one of the things that I've been, I guess most of us have been privy to hear is that we have a lot of scholars in our communities across country that offer so many remedies or solutions. And, one of the things that I've come to realize that, which one works and what can work for most of us. And the thing is an audience. One thing I know about Black folk, we like to look good and we like to feel good.
True indeed.
And as far as America's dirty little secret, most of us will not pay much attention to it as the folks that don't look like us. And how do we start to deal with what we need to deal with in regards to the question that you asked? And I say that, and this is not to pick on church, but on Sunday mornings, the overwhelming majority of Black folk lend their ear to a brother or a sister that for at least 45 minutes to an hour gets to say pretty much whatever he or she wants to say. And these people are listening, often taking notes. Now, our ancestors say the system of salvation lies within the knowledge of self. Man, know thyself in order to know the God within. We seem to be the leading authority on God. Ain't nobody got Jesus like Black folk.
True indeed.
We have cornered the market on this Jewish carpenter. And I think that we have actually oversold the whole concept in regards to salvation and a freedom of our mind, body, and spirit. When you can give reverence to something as a concept of a religion, but can't reverence the thing that is the key to your prosperity and expansion. I'm not dismissing tithing because that's a whole nother Oprah show. But the thing that I've witnessed as a former Sunday school teacher is the power of the spoken word. And if brothers and sisters in these pulpits would begin to administer to the congregation things that are healing, we could move mountains. And the first thing that they need to establish is that there's an ignorance, meaning we have chose to ignore our past. Karmic energy. And that is, if you follow most dark-skinned people across this planet, the overwhelming majority lives in the southern hemisphere.
So true.
Overwhelming majority goes through a phase of poverty, are considered third world. Even here in America, there are parts in the inner cities that look like a third world country. And that's not by happenstance. That is not all by design. It's about karma. And it's about a people that choose to ignore the things that can heal them and bring them the proper prosperity. Because you can't rich your way out of this thing. The thing that will heal black folks is the ability to know themselves, to detach from an energy that has festered too long. It's in our ancestral blood. And it's called disunity. Mm-hmm. It happened on the shores of Elmina. For someone to come in there and do what they did in small numbers to a large percentage, you had to be in disunity. It just didn't happen on an auction block. It happened long before the Dutch and the Portuguese rose, and that's the things we need to look at. And why have we, through the generations, festered? So when I look at a time like the 60s when black folks had the attention of the world and were on the world stage, we performed very well. We got the attention. As most of the civil rights leaders will tell you, we got the civil rights. But what we walked away with, as my mother would say, now you can sit next to the white man on the toilet. That don't mean your stuff ain't gonna stink. The thing is that we still didn't have the rules of how to play the game. And we are in a game that our best tool is our spirituality, but spirituality is the awareness of self. It is not a doctrinated, dogmatic system. And I think that's the concept that has escaped the church. We're trying to save ourselves in the afterlife, but we're forgetting and we don't know how to live this life. Mm-hmm. And that's not African. Right, and that's not African. Mm-hmm. That's not African, and that's what's been lost. And I think that in the beginning of healing, we have to understand the things that, not just what happened, but the things that are still happening. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe, going from California to New York and from Seattle to Florida, that the thing that seems to be consistent is that we choose not to know.
Committed to ignorance.
Absolutely, because the word ignorance linguistically means one who chooses to ignore. Mm-hmm. You take a stance, you know, that's what ignorance means. I'm taking a stance to ignore.
I see. You know, and I can definitely attest to that because I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and I've lived in the South for 10 years now. You know, from North Carolina to Texas, mm-hmm. And many years ago, you know, Brother Malcolm even said it. Said the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that when the Negro in the South finally wakes up, it's all over. And when I first heard that, I was still in New York. And since I've had a chance to live in the South and the Southwest for a decade, encountering the brothers and sisters here from North Carolina to Texas, where I'm located now, Brother Minister Malcolm and Brother Elijah Muhammad were right. You know, I mean, here in the South, they call it the Bible Belt. But
correct.
From what I've seen, and Tammy and I were talking about this earlier. Yeah, these brothers and sisters, they're totally Jesus-fied, you know, if there is such a word. If not, I just invented one. And and when I look at, from encountering them myself, I more or less share those sentiments that if we could just get the brothers and sisters in the South to awaken, then that would really, really help, because many of them, unfortunately, and of course we know that it all comes from slavery. This was all passed down from generation to generation to generation, and unfortunately many of them are stuck there. They chose, to just blindly accept and not do any research. But from dealing with them myself, yeah, I'm inclined to agree with Malcolm and Elijah. These brothers and sisters, it's going to take some work.
It's going to take work, and I was asked once in a lecture, a seminar rather, and that was, well, brother, why the church? And I said, because it has always been the pillar of the black community.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't have a Kiwanis Club. We don't have the Sierra Club. And I'm not talking fraternities or sororities. I'm talking Sunday mornings.
We have the pool hall,
Yeah, right. And we've always done the barbershop and the beauty shop, but the numbers at that particular time, on that particular day, and there are some brothers and sisters that have spoken up, and that have set some things in motion, and I commend them very well. Just to put out there that it's okay to speak differently. I don't know if you all caught Nightline the other night with the whole thing about does the devil exist, with Brother Carlton Pearson and Deepak Chopra going against a couple of members of the church. And
sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, that was this past Thursday night. If you go to abcnews.com, you can see it in its entirety. But it's a very, very heated thing, and the points that Brother Carlton Pearson brought up in Deepak, especially Deepak, telling people about empowering themselves. And there is something to the psyche that you put more energy and power outside of yourself than you do yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice. Because I was also asked once before, there's a lady selling some T-shirts, and on the T-shirts it say, "Fear God." And they were beautiful shirts. And I just walked by them at a vending. You know how you're in these festivals and you walk by, and the sister was selling, she was marking the shirts, and she told me she had my size because, I'm pretty tall, and that if I buy two, I get the other one free. And I said, well, I think they're great, but I'm going to pass. And she went on to sell her thing about the concept of fearing God. And I said, well, I find that very interesting because on some levels they will call that the Stockholm Syndrome. Okay. And she said, how so? I say, how can you love the thing that you fear at the same time? I said, it's hard for me to fear something and in the same breath say I love him. Mm-hmm. I say either I love God or I don't. Either I fear him or I don't. And she said, well, do you fear him? I say, I can't fear him. And she said, well, why? I know you got a mama. I know you got a grandmama. I say, it's hard for me to fear something first I can't see. I say, I can fear you because I can see you. And she said, I don't understand. I said, God said, love thy brother as you would thyself. How can you love me who you've never seen? If I can't love what I don't see, I'm not going to feel what I don't see either.
Teach.
So it's a very, I've heard Farrakhan once say, our mind is our worst enemy. And he said most of us are crazy as hell, because of the way we say these things and we're sincere about these things, but our life displays a whole nother story. And I've come to really believe that. And to me, that generates that whole concept of what I was trying to relay in the book, this concept of self-hate. It's hard for you to love yourself if everything you know about yourself is degrading, and then you perpetuate it. So when you find the solace on Sunday mornings, and you wail and you wave your hands and you talk about the love of God and you talk about the love of Jesus, but yet you'll continue to lie, cheat, steal, backbite, manipulate. And all it takes is that one boss man that don't look like you say, you got one more time to be late and I'm getting rid of you. You will feel him more than you would God, because, see, you will cheat, lie, steal, and ask God for forgiveness. But when this boy tell you one more time if you late, you ain't going to be late.
Matter of fact, you'll get there an hour before him.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Curtis.
So, I'm looking at our phone lines. They are filled. It looks like we have some questions and comments here. Be a great time. Are you ready, Baba Femi, for some comments here?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. Let's see. We have our first caller here in the 773, Chicago. Greetings. Welcome to Solutions Radio. You have a question or comment? Oh, perhaps they're just listening. We'll go to the next one. Oh, hello. Greetings. You're on the line, 773, area code.
I guess they're listening as well.
Perhaps they're listening too.
Okay.
Hello, caller in the 708 area code. Do you have a question or comment for Baba Femi? Looks like they're all just listening.
Oh, wow.
So let us continue on. Yeah, this self-hatred is quite detrimental. Oh, looks like we have another caller here. Hello, caller in 111. You're on the air. Everybody's listening tonight.
Everybody's listening. Well, one of the things that I wanted to add, when I was doing the book, and I was very skeptical about using the term self-hatred. Mm-hmm. And, I was looking for other terms to use, lack of awareness or, just sort of kind of out of touch. But, the more that I looked at some of what the others have written in the areas of, Francis Cress Welsing, some of the teachings from Amos Wilson, a lot of the educators that have dealt with the mindset of Africans in America. And, it's very, very subtle. It's very, very subliminal. It's hard to think that you see a brother in a suit, a nice sister walking around, in corporate America. These people are well educated. They got letters behind their names. They're living in suburbia with a nice home. The kids, and to say that these people hate themselves, you're not going to convince most people that these people hate themselves.
No,
but,
well.
When you look at, however, the cultural continuity of America, Western culture, and whether we get into the linear frame of mind of Western Europeans that settle in this country, Protestants, the thing that is most disturbing is that we have not created a reference of anything else. And so, a young lady out in California said, well, white folks hate themselves too. I said, well, you can find a family up in the West Virginia coal mines. I'm pretty sure they don't like themselves. But there's a difference. You may hate the condition that you're in, but most African American people don't even know they're in a condition. The thing is, they think that they're just as worse off than anybody else. And for all practical purposes, statistically, in a CNN poll, 8 out of 10 of Americans is yada yada this and yada that. Well, that may be us too. But my point is that it has to come from a different place because your history is different. One history goes to the right, and the other one history goes to the left. They both end up not liking themselves. Well, that's because, they don't like themselves because their history went to the right, and the people over here don't like themselves because their history went to the left. And that's the point that I was trying to make into one of the audience members, is that she couldn't grasp the idea that she didn't like herself. And I said, well, let me tell you something that's even more confusing. I said, because and she did. I said, you have a perm on your hair. Now, you have a perm on your hair, and you call it a perm, which is short for permanent.
Permanent. Mm-hmm.
I say, but sister, how often do you get a perm? She said, once every 6 months. I said, well, then that's a temporary. That's not a permanent. Now, if you look at white people, they have, looking like yours, that's permanent.
Oh, yeah, their hair doesn't get nappy.
Yeah, right. So what's even more invasive is that you will relax your hair, which is designed to stand up. And they don't go out to do things to make their hair stand up. They don't get plastic surgery to have broad noses. Of course, they do in the collagen now to have thick lips because they call them Paris lips. But, and you've had them all your life, but now all of a sudden they're Paris lips. But my point is that that's the subtleness and the subliminal, and not that a perm is bad. We give all credit and blessings to Madam C.J. Walker. But I'm just saying that is still a subliminal concept. And I even, and then she went on to ask about the dating, because in my book, the basketball player has 3 kids. They from all 3 different black women. But he only dates white women. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, how many white athletes, male or female, have you seen standing in front of an audience, ESPN, or after the big game with their significant other, and they look like us?
I've never seen
I haven't met a white male or female athlete that has shown up, even in a magazine, with their significant other being caramel chocolate or, just one of the many beautiful shades of brown. Now, as far as, NFL, NBA, MLB, now we can go over to golf. We can go over to the Wood Sisters in tennis. I mean, come on, work with me. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I'm all for love, and who you love, get it where you can. But still, we have to take notice of what's really going on. Mm-hmm. And I say that's the subtleness of it, because we all trying to be politically correct here. We all trying to flow. And I know Brother Curtis and I could probably have this other conversation with the white women and what some sisters expect for us to do now in the bedroom. And I remember coming up in the 60s, and you brought it up and said, well, only white folks did that. Now, your marriage may not, your marriage may not work, brother, if you're not able
to perform that function.
to perform that function, What do you mean you don't do that? So we've come a long way. I'm not hating, but I'm just saying the things that we have allowed to occur to us in this, whether it's integration, amalgamation, whatever you want to call it, I still know, I don't believe we are beautiful people. I believe that we have still a lot of work to do when it comes to what we're really looking at in the mirror.
I see. I mean, I remember growing up in, I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
No, go ahead.
All right. I remember growing up in Brooklyn, in the neighborhood, and one of my first encounters with how messed up in the head we were was that I noticed you take one brother that went off to the penitentiary, and you take the other brother who might have gone off to law school. And the brother that came home from law school, an attorney, a law school graduate, was basically snubbed, if he returned to let everybody know, show everybody that, look, I came out of the neighborhood, and this is what I've become. Everyone basically turned up their nose at him and like, oh, you think you're better than us now?
Right.
But then the brother that came home from the penitentiary got a hero's welcome. Mm-hmm. And I'm standing there, I'm 46 years old, okay, and I'm standing there when I was young, in my teens, and I'm looking at this. And I said, now I'm beginning to see why a lot of young brothers and sisters may possibly choose that life of crime, because they're in an environment where education or achievement, in other words, if you're not really on the street, if you're not dumb like us and being mediocre like us, then you've sold out. The only way you're really going to be black is if you underachieve.
Correct.
And we need a new standard.
Yeah.
And we got two basic standards. We need a third.
Right. And that's a very good example. In the book, the character Ward B. Shaw III is a brother in corporate America who has snubbed his way at the average, everyday black folk. But in hindsight, I had someone to read the book and say, oh, you didn't punish Ward enough. Ward should have been punished more. And I said, well, if you go to the last chapter and Ward B. Shaw made a comment, he said, I think black folks are needed in corporate America. And, you know, oftentimes we are the consumers of these corporations. Mm-hmm. And it's good to have brothers and sisters up there. And I think he makes a great case. He said, but also I believe that after a certain period of time, we need to be educated in starting our own.
Absolutely.
And I think that these brothers that carry the briefcases that have done the work at whether it's an Ivy League school or HBC, I think that, you know, for the most part, they haven't sold out if they are doing what a lot of the white brothers and sisters are doing and giving back to the community or giving, because, you know, some of these white folks will give their blood to a corporation. You know, it becomes pretty much their first family. And, you know, I'm not saying we do that, but I am saying that I think a lot of us that are groomed for it should step away at some point and create any type of community, young business associations, young business entrepreneur groups to give people a sense of corporate America, give them the tools, how there's a corporate culture. I think that's very, very important because I was in corporate America for 16 years. And it is a corporate culture. And, I mean, yeah, it's a game you play. But I've seen people that not only my color but Asians, I've seen Arabs get in there, man, and they play that game as well. But they're also talking about starting their own. And I think that's what's real. And that's where a lot of businesses can actually grow in our community is taking that knowledge and that information, that experience back to the community. And I don't think we've done that enough.
Oh yeah, I agree. You know, and I thought about a lot of that too. Why didn't a lot of brothers and sisters, once they got that Ivy League degree, once they got that college degree, that quote unquote special knowledge, and come back and help the community? But when I looked at, you know, what I described earlier, a lot of them were basically scared off from coming back because when they came back and tried to say, hey, brothers and sisters, you know, I mean, I'm a doctor now, I'm a lawyer, I came back to help, I came back to educate. Oh, well, you're not black anymore. You sold out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what do you know?
Brad, it looks like we have someone in the chat room let me know they are on the line and they do have a comment, so let's allow them to join the conversation. Hello, Sis.
Hello, can you hear me?
Are you on the line? Hi, welcome, and let's hear your comment.
Greetings.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Greetings.
I came in about 30 minutes of the show, so I just wanted to make a comment. I heard some statements. I've been involved in the community for a very long time, and I was educated under the Black Studies Department at City College in New York City. So I had a very, very rich, diverse educational background. But what I have found is that many African descent people do not want to even accept that they have a connection to Africa.
That's right.
They want to feel this as if they are victimized and stay in that mindset of being victimized. And they look for someone else or something else to save them from the seen and the unseen instead of dealing with the power with the power within themselves.
Correct.
So for me, from my involvement when I've been politically and dealing with the community and being involved, I found that as a struggle because my father was born in 1914. And when he used to tell me the stories, he was born in Georgia, Augusta, Georgia. And when he used to tell me the stories, he used to tell me those stories about how he grew up and how that many of his brothers and sisters, may they were blood related or not, how they were criticized and how they were hunted based on the pigmentation of their skin. But the interesting thing about my father, when he told the story, and others would tell me the story, that they used to tell me they thought he was crazy because he feared no one. They used to call him the crazy, the N-word. And when they did, he would actually begin to fight. And they said that he was crazy because he said he didn't fear anyone. He looked to no man or no one to do anything. He looked to the divine power within himself. And he taught me
sister,
that.
let me respond to that because we may be running out of time. And because I know you came in late. My name is Baba Femi, and you can go to my webpage at obafemi.org. And I actually will be in New York from the April the 16th through the 23rd. It'll be my third time going back to Brooklyn. I Fort Greene too, Brother Curtis. One of the things, and just piggybacking on what the sister's saying, is that tie back to Africa. And we spoke of Brother Malcolm. If you read the book, I took a phrase out about the self-hate, and Malcolm, one of Malcolm's speech, he talked about self-hate. And it goes right into what this sister is saying. Absolutely right into what she's saying. And that is that inner strength and courage of an individual to stand for a cause or for his people, for his community, and against the establishment, knowing very well they have to ebb and flow within it. That takes a very strong individual.
We are the solutions. We are the cause. We are the effect. We are the light. We are the darkness. We are male. We are female. Yes, we are the